Hello, Joseph here again with another video. Today I would like to share with you some albums that are in the rotation. Records that I'm listening to frequently, and I always have a pile next to my turntable, a stack of records that I want to listen to more frequently, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. But before we get started, I have to go and mention the passing of the great Ramsey Lewis, the great jazz pianist from Chicago. He passed yesterday. I believe he was in his 80s, and Ramsey had a very remarkable career. Of course, I believe he got started in the early 60s or maybe even the late 50s, and he always had his jazz trio going on. In the early days, it was L.D. Young on bass and Red Holt on drums. Ramsey was an amazing artist in the fact that he sold a lot of records, but even perhaps more so than that, he could just groove like crazy. Well, especially on his live albums like this one. This one was recorded live at the Lighthouse in Hermosa Beach. He does a version of Hard Day's Night. He would frequently do pop covers, rock covers of songs. Of course, his big hit was The In Crowd. But here he does A Hard Day's Night, really grooves hard on that. He does another Beatles song here, And I Love Her, High Heel Sneakers, Satin Doll, and of course the take on Hang On Sloopy, which is why it's called Hang On Ramsey. But Ramsey Lewis was an amazing artist. He would grow, his music would progress in the 70s. He would start playing electric piano and get a more funk-orientated sound. But regardless, he had an amazing career. He will be missed, and I'm sure many record collectors today and the next couple of days and forever are going to be spinning Ramsey Lewis. Recently, I was able to get this album back in the collection. Chet Baker, She Was Too Good to Me. I'm a huge Chet Baker fan. I just love the sound of his trumpet, his lyrical approach. I was able to hear Chet back in the 70s live, but this album is from 1974. It's a gatefold on CTI, and Chet is in excellent form here. His tone is just so beautiful. He's got an outstanding group here of Hubert Laws, Paul Desmond, Bob James, Ron Carter, Steve Gadd, and Jack DeJohnette. And like I say, this is one of my favorite albums. One of the highlights here is he does a version of Hank Mobley's Funk in a Deep Freeze, Tangerine with the song in My Heart. All in all, just a great album. Of all the CTI albums, keep your eyes out for this one, especially if you love Chet Baker. And this is more of a straight ahead album, not funk orientated at all, like some of the other CTI albums. And the Don Sebesky arrangements are very subtle and great. Chet Baker, She Was Too Good to Me. Another album I recently was able to get back in the collection was Miles Davis, In a Silent Way. I've been on the lookout for a good copy of this one for some time, and I was able to find a really clean copy of this one. It doesn't have too much ring wear, which a lot of them do get that. And this is an OG pressing, Miles Davis, In a Silent Way. And this is, I believe, the album right before Bitches Brew. It's a more quiet album, hence the title, In a Silent Way. But it's always been one of my favorites. It really only has a couple of compositions. Side 1 is called Shh, Peaceful, and of course side 2, In a Silent Way, and it's about time. But it's just really beautiful, ambient, quiet music, and I'm really glad I have it back in the collection. Like all jazz fans, I'm a huge fan of Blue Note, and I was recently able to get Herbie Nichols, the Prophetic Herbie Nichols, Volume 1 and Volume 2. This is, of course, from the classic series. Herbie Nichols is a pianist that is somewhat not well known, but he's a really remarkable pianist, somewhat with an approach a little bit, as they say, like Thelonious Monk, but he's all his own person. He sounds like nobody else. And I was really amazed at the quality of the sound of this album. For being an early 50s recording, the sound is outstanding, the pressing is excellent, and I've been really spinning this quite frequently, enjoying the trio sounds of Herbie Nichols. Taj Mahal, Giant Steps. I've always been a big fan of Taj, and this is one of his classic albums. It's a double album, of course, Giant Step, and then on the back it's The Old Folks at Home. Of course, Giant Step is his great group he had in the early days with Jesse Edwin Davis on guitar. And my favorite cut here is Take a Giant Step. It's a song that the Monkees actually made popular. I believe Boyce and Hart wrote it. But Taj does it in all his own style with some great guitar by Jesse Edwin Davis. And then the second album is The Old Folks at Home with Taj doing his more rural blues. And this is also outstanding. So I pull this one out frequently. If I really want to listen to Taj Mahal, this is perhaps my go-to album. I really love this album and the music of Taj Mahal, who's still going strong today. I believe he's in his 80s. One of the albums that used to belong to my dad this was Bud Powell. Bud Powell is such an amazing pianist. And here he's in trio form. This is recordings from the early 50s, even in the 49 up to 55. So these are really great recordings of Bud all in a trio setting with Curly Russell on bass, or Ray Brown, Art Taylor, Max Roach on drums, some solo piano on one cut. But Bud Powell is such an astounding artist, maybe somewhat overlooked in some ways of the great bebop artists. Perhaps Dizzy Gillespie, and of course Charlie Parker get more attention, and of course Monk. But Bud Powell is just a blazing pianist, and of course it's a tragic story as you learn more about his life. What a tragedy happened with him. But whenever you hear Bud Powell in great form, it's music unlike any other. I've been listening a lot to Renaissance, the progressive band from, this was from the 1970s. This is live at Carnegie Hall. And one of the things I really enjoy about Renaissance, besides their arrangements and their prog rock, is the beautiful vocals of Annie Haslam. Her vocals are just really stunning, and she really soars on this album live at Carnegie Hall. I've been collecting actually almost all their early albums, and she never ceases to amaze me, and I'm thoroughly enjoying the music of Renaissance and Annie Haslam. So if you've never heard of them, check them out. Great group and wonderful vocalists of Annie Haslam. ECM Records. I'm a big fan of ECM Records. A lot of very quiet music there. Of course, a lot of I love the music of Keith Jarrett. Chick Corea's on there also with his early Return to Forever album. But this is an album I picked up recently. Charlie Haydn, The Ballad of the Fallen, along with Carla Bley and many others. This was known as the Liberation Orchestra. It has a very Spanish music style influence with wonderful arrangements by Carla Bley, Don Cherry on trumpet, and a big group of others. Paul Motian on drums, of course, who played with the Bill Evans Trio. What's amazing about this album is it's a library copy. I think it was from some library in Brownsville. But it's in great condition, and I've been really digging into this one. Like I say, Charlie Haydn, The Ballad of the Fallen. The sound of Charlie Haydn's bass never fails to amaze me. Such a warm, beautiful tone to the bass of Charlie Haydn. About a year ago, I was able to pick up about 5 or 6 albums in the thrift store by Franois Hardy. She was an artist I'd never heard of before, but upon checking her out, she's from France, and she sings for the most part all in French, but she has a beautiful pop sound. It sounds very mid-60s, very, really hard to describe, but it's very unique. And like I say, I have about 5 or 6 of her albums, and I pull them out. Even though I don't understand the language, she's got a sweet, soft vocal quality to her singing. And I'm really enjoying the music of Franois Hardy. This is called Mon Amour Adieu. And apparently they're quite valuable albums too. I was able to score 5 or 6 albums, all in mint condition. So I have an instant Franois Hardy collection, and I'm enjoying her music. Another female vocalist that I enjoy is Flora Pareto. Of course, she came to be known through Return to Forever when she was part of Chick Corea's original group. And then, of course, her and Airto have made music for many years. they're still doing well. They recently somewhat retired, but I was able to hear Flora live in person, her and Aerto, back in the 70s. But this is one of her albums on Warner Brothers, and she's still in it's because she would tend to get a little more commercial as time goes by, and this is getting into that area, but it's still an excellent album. It's produced by George Duke, and it's got one particular song called Angels, which I really enjoy. It's got a funky dance groove with Flora's vocals soaring over the top, and I just always enjoy the beautiful vocals of Flora Pareto. And last but not least, another female vocalist. This one is by Maddie Pryor. I found this one at one of the local flea markets about a month ago, and I've always enjoyed the folk vocalist Maddie Pryor. She, of course, was part of the band Steel Eye Span, and this is one of her solo albums produced by Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull, who also makes an appearance on flute on several cuts. But Maddie Pryor, she's always enjoyable with her English folk sound. And actually, I have one other album by hers that I picked up on the same day I have to dig into. So that's what I've been listening to. Hope you enjoyed me sharing with you. Like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.